Welcome to another episode of Finding Love. And as we build this community, it has been so precious for us to just embrace all of the love and support and letters that are coming in. And we're a huge proponent of building community and getting perspectives from other people. And today, we got a letter that I don't even want to talk about it, but we have to. Stay tuned. So I'm gonna go right into it. It says, Dear Jenni and Stephen, I am so lost and do not know what to do. I just kicked the father of my 3 children out of the house for the 5th time. We have been on and off for the last 8 years. Every single time I kick him out and start to get back on my feet, I always let him back in. I thought this time was different, but after about 8 months, the abuse started again. And yesterday, I was not going to be mentally, verbally, or physically abused again, especially not in front of my children. I'm so tired of this, but I love him. And honestly, I don't know if I can do any better. I always say I'm done when this happens, but I always get lonely and start to feel sorry for him, and I let him back in. I need to be done. I just want my children to be happy. I want to be happy. What should I do? Almost tearing up again reading this letter. But this one is deep on a couple different levels. And one being to protect yourself and the other being to protect your children.
And one thing I want to say is I really want to thank her for trusting us and trusting the community, because there is an entire community behind this and we get a lot of feedback. And so thank you so much for this listener letter, because this is the reality of so many people. And this letter is so loaded. There's so many pieces to it. I hear a woman that is fatigued. I hear a woman that she worries about her children. She's worried about herself. And it also looks like she's losing confidence and forgetting the value that she has in herself. And with that, one thing that I would always want us to focus on is that she has to find her motivation. Mm-hmm. She has to find her motivation to, one, get back to herself, but one that is so important, that is so precious, she has to protect her children. Absolutely. And so when we have to find our motivation, we have to find out what is the most motivating piece for us to hold on to, whether it is your mental health, whether it's your life, or here, the easiest thing for me to point to being a father is pointing to your 3 children. And I want to start with something that is potent, and that's numbers. And numbers do not lie. After we read this letter, we noticed that her and so many other people go back into toxic situations. And so we have to lead with numbers, statistics. And here are some of the statistics we found. So anyone that is in an abusive relationship or knows somebody that is in an abusive relationship, please send them this. On average, more than 3 women and 1 man are murdered by their intimate partners every day in the United States.
I mean, just let that marinate for a second. And it really makes me think about the people who don't know they're in an abusive relationship, because he isn't knocking your head off your shoulders, but he's calling you out of your name on a regular, or she's throwing stuff at you, or disrespecting you, or belittling you. Like, all of those things over time can manifest into something that is going to resurge as trauma.
Right.
And any of those things can lead to you doing the unthinkable. I don't know, and I would just be very curious to know if all of those people were physically abusive. All of those murderers.
Yeah.
in those intimate relationships, because I believe that when you are in the mode of trying to put someone down or put someone in their place or talk down to them or beat them down, what's the breaking point?
Yeah.
So protecting your life is huge.
Or how many times has that someone let them back in?
Yes. Yeah. It makes me think about what's love got to do with it.
Oh, man, yeah.
I think that was my first time ever, like, seeing physical abuse. And I remember the entire movie was, like, gut-wrenching. Like, what in the world?
Just waiting for it to happen again.
You know, but he wasn't always bad. He always came with gifts. He said he was sorry. He elevated her life by putting her in the game. All of these great pros allow her to just say, I made him mad that time, or maybe he was just drinking. He didn't mean it. He said sorry. And that is what breaks my heart and my spirit so much. But if you are someone that is in an abusive relationship and you have children, you have to hear these stats. One study found that children exposed to violence in the home were 15 times more likely to be physically and or sexually assaulted than the national average. 30 to 60% of intimate partner violence perpetrators also abuse children in the household. And boys who were witnessing domestic violence are 2 times more likely to abuse their own partners and children when they become adults. If that doesn't say it, I don't know what else to say.
Yeah. And you're a mother of 3 children, but please hear these stats. And that can be your external motivation.
Absolutely.
To get on the right path, because a part of it is we get in this vicious cycle, and this is what we get used to. And yes, those are jaw-dropping stats. So we have to leave you with the National Domestic Violence Hotline. That is 1-800-799-7233.
There is help. There are, groups of other men and other women who have been in similar situations. There are things that can get you over this hump, right? And it's always so daunting to me for a married woman like myself to tell you, girl, gone, right? Get out of there. But when I hear these stats and I read these stats about what it's going to do to your child in the long run, it is so hard for me not to say, protect those babies. So now on the flip side, let's say that this guy actually was a decent father to them, right? And you don't want to take the father away from their children. This is where some very, very clear boundaries need to be set. Because you don't have to say, you've been so mentally, physically, emotionally abusive to me that you never get to see your children. But I do think that is when the judicial system has to come in place. You guys haven't figured it out thus far, and I think that's where you have some visitation or some, what is that called when supervised?
Yes.
But I think that's something that you're going to be thinking about down the road. Right now, you have to focus on the now. And the now is not repeating the vicious cycle of you kick them out, you let them back in.
That's right.
You send them to jail, and then he come back over. You buy the next apartment together, then you move out, and you let them come into that one.
That's right.
Don't do it. You have to stop the cycle now.
Yeah, and I want to go back to the end of the letter, because that, I heard, is the cry for help. I need to be done. I want my children to be happy, and I want to be happy. What should I do? And this is a cry for help. And I'm listening to a woman, but a person who is lost and needs to get back to remembering their power and remembering their value and remembering their beauty and building back that confidence. Because when somebody's going through something like this, they lose that and they lose a sense of themselves. and they blame themselves for the predicament they're in or the reason why their children are hearing that. But guess what? We have to acknowledge that as the past, and we have to be ready to move forward. And that has to be a strong position.
Yeah.
And so looking at this, I hear a vicious cycle, but guess what? It can stop now.
Yes.
And she has to find the motivation to stop it. And if she can't find it internally, she has to find it externally with her children. And if that can be her motivation, then she can get herself back, and she can get back to a place of building that confidence, loving her children. And if she can find that place, then she can work on her happiness and always look at her children as a source of that, because that motivation right there is, to me, her North Star.
Yeah. You said strong.
Yeah.
And the strength of a woman who loved this man. She had children by this man. The strength of a woman who was doing it alongside this man and now going to be doing it by herself, at least for some time, right? The amount of courage and the amount of just tenacity that it will take from a deep space that you might not even feel is there. Your cup probably has been running on low and empty for a long time. But if you hold on to things like these steps, you hold on to the fact that I believe this wholeheartedly, that most people who stay together for the children end up hurting the child or children even more in the long run. So when you hold on to things like that, you will have to die to self for a while. You know, your emotional pleasures of the good times, maybe even your sexual pleasures of the good times that you had with this person will call you back in the heat of the night, right? But at the same time, you have to constantly remind yourself that I am doing this not for me right now, but for my children in 10, 20, 30 years. Because right now, you already got to combat whatever they've seen and heard so far.
That's right.
So it is not so much about you just being so courageous and strong in the moment, but it is so much about you loving on those babies, so much so that you are willing to suppress everything you want right now to give them everything they need in the future.
And you are the person that you practice to be.
Oh, yes.
And so when we go and we find ourselves falling into these places of comfortability and complacency, and then when we go into that place, we get comfortable. And when you get comfortable, you stop growing. And your confidence gets diminished. And when we accept a certain level of treatment long enough, we get used to it. And when we get used to it long enough, we feel as though we deserve it. And when we feel we deserve it, then that's our standard. And that is a space that is very lonely and very scary. And that also makes me think of the Diddy and Cassie situation. Watching, you know, Cassie run down that hall and somebody chase after her. I mean, we know who it was.
Right.
But I see a woman that is running from so much, and she is broken and she is scared out of her mind. And I imagine if she watched that video of herself now, she is looking at somebody she doesn't even know who that is.
I would agree with
because she is so broken. She is so lost. So it's almost like an outer body experience. And so the Cassie that we see today, I hope and I imagine, but most importantly, I hope that she has regained her power and she has regained her sense of femininity and confidence, where she can say, man, look how far I fell, but I am dope and I am beautiful. And since then, she's gotten remarried. And she also had the strength to come back and fight back.
Yes.
and put a couple dollars in her pocket, even though that will never recover the full amount of what was done. But guess what? She was able to do that.
Yes.
She said, I found the love of my life because I am a wife.
Yes.
And guess what? Give me that bag.
Yeah.
And so I think that that is something that also just kind of, came to the forefront of my mind because, where the path we're going down.
It really just makes me think about why we started these conversations.
Yeah.
And the proper spouse, the person you're supposed to be with, will elevate your life in so many facets.
That's right.
They will elevate you financially, emotionally, spiritually, physically. They are going to have your backs in so many ways, in ways you didn't even know you needed somebody to have your back. So if you're feeling stuck, if you're feeling like I got to get away, you're feeling like, I'm not financially progressing. I'm still not where I want to be in my spiritual walk. I'm still not want to be with my body goals. I'm still not where I want to be in my career. You might need to look at the person you're with because that person, while you're like, well, he maybe he never hit me, but he always yells at me and calls me out of my name.
That's right.
Or maybe she hit you, but it didn't hurt you that much, right? You a man. No. The person you are supposed to be with respects, supports you in ways that, like I said, you don't even know you need.
That's right. And that other person allows you to grow.
Yeah.
They don't isolate you and pull you away from your friends or pull you away from your family or pull you away from business opportunities. Because we've also seen that where people just isolate their intimate partner, their significant other, and all they want is them to themselves.
Yep.
And in that spot, if you think about it, nobody can grow. No. We grow when we spread our wings. We grow when we're not put in a pot.
Going back to Cassie, that person also doesn't want to embrace your past. They don't want to think about you being with nobody else.
That's right.
You mine,
That's right.
And her husband not only allowed her to live in that past and grow from that past, but he was doing like marathons for domestic violence when they were early on dating. Like he said, I'm empowering you and I'm going to show you and prove to you how you were supposed to be dealt with and handled.
That's right.
He didn't try to just eliminate her past or say, no, we ain't gonna talk about that no more. I'm a good man now. He said, no, let's make sure that we heal from that let me be your support system as you get through it. Because the amount of shame that a woman experiences when they speak out on domestic violence. I mean, it took for us to see him soccer kick her for some people to say, ooh, maybe she wasn't lying. Like, wait, what? You thought that 25-page law document was like all for money? That took some courage. That took an extreme amount of healing and strength. So in order to get to that point, I do think it can take months, even years. I think that it can absolutely take some therapy or counseling. And I do think it will need you to begin to really dive into that spiritual relationship because there's no one person. Ain't no family member got the answers. We ain't got the answers. There's no one person that can heal you like you. That's right. So you just have to be intentional about, like we said, your motivation. Be intentional about protecting your children. Be intentional about knowing your worth. Because once you know your worth and value, no one can take you down. And I think there's strength in the new man. There's strength in the man who brings the woman out of that darkness because she was in an abusive relationship. But he sees the strength in her as well to say, hey, guess what? That's not going to define you. As a matter of fact, I see the strength in you. And I'm going to show you the strength that you really have, the power that you really have. So being able to have the strength
to see her strength and allow her to just walk into her confidence and walk into her power and walk into who she is, I think that is the real strength of having a collective, having a significant other, and ultimately having a spouse.
And I think that her strength grew with him, right? So he saw her worthiness from the start. She was worth it even when she was broken, because I know for a fact she was broken still. She coming from that, I mean, I don't know how long it would take you to really rebuild yourself. So you saw her in a moment where she probably is not really yet trusting men, you know, maybe relearning herself, maybe trying to figure out how the heck did I end up in this last situation for so long.
That's right.
And he saw her worthiness immediately. So get you somebody that see your worth from the beginning.
That's right.
You ain't got to do nothing. It ain't got to be no performance measures. It's not you being like, here are my stats. You know, they see you. And it's so much power in that. But you won't be able to get to that if you always got a revolving door for someone who doesn't want you even having friends.
That's right.
Who, you know, wants you all to themselves, who wants to tear you down verbally, mentally, and physically. You won't be able to meet that person. So a part of healing is knowing what needs to be done. And a woman who comes out of a toxic situation is still worth it, even when she's broken. You don't have to be fully healed to be worth it. You don't have to be fully out of this trauma to make sure that you are getting a person that you deserve, to make sure that you know the type of man or the type of woman or the type of family you deserve. And the moment that you know your worth and you know that it is not a piece of that brokenness is a lesson now, is the moment that you will step into your excellence and in all of your glory.
And the right one will see your worth. And guess what? They'll double down on your worth. And then both of you will truly be able to flourish.
Absolutely. Now that's mic drop.
Yeah.
This letter, it like stops me in my tracks for so many reasons. And the Cassie video is one of them. You know, I'm a comment creeper. I be like, what do people got to say? Because the internet is undefeated. Now, y'all go ahead somewhere else off my stuff, okay? But y'all, the comments were disgusting. The comments, you know, almost made me want to be the comment creep police. Like, you know what, and your mama probably bald head. You know, I want to go back at them, right? But the thing that I got from those comments was the perception of the strength of a woman who comes out and talks about their abuse. I don't care if it's money involved. I don't care if years have passed. I don't care of the status of that man. And this got to be for another episode. My Black Panther in me wants us to elevate and really stand behind all Black people. But wrong is wrong. And the power that it takes to be able to speak openly about something so traumatic. All I see is strength.
That's right.
All I see is strength, and I see healing.
That's right.
So you writing this letter lets me know that you know what you got to do. You didn't write this letter for us to tell you.
That's right.
We don't know, you know. and I love you for it, and I'm glad we are able to start these types of conversations. But the one thing I want you to know, just reading this letter, you said, I want my children to be happy and I want to be happy, which lets me know that you are not. And if you deserve anything in this world, you deserve to be full of joy.
That's right.
And you can't do that with someone who is making you feel like you're not even happy.
Absolutely. So let's toast and let's toast to her. Okay. All right. Let's toast. I want to toast to our listener here. I want to toast to, you've had 8 years of struggle. You have 8 years of battle. But guess what? On the other side of that is your victory. Other side of that is your happiness. So we have to claim it, but we have to do the real work to achieve it. You deserve your happiness. All we did was provide perspective. But you and your kids deserve happiness, but it starts with you. You know what to do. And we hope that our perspective can lighten the way a little bit. But dial in on your strength. Remember who you are. Remember your power. And hold on to that. And push through with your motivation.
Yeah.
Absolutely have the motivation of your children and anything else you can hold on to and never let go of it. And that is where you will find yourself on the other side of the struggle, embracing your happiness, hugging your children, and going down a path of growth, positivity, and joy. Cheers.
Thank you so much for tuning in. It has been a journey of love, of understanding, of vulnerability, and we are just so appreciative that you have joined us for another episode of Finding Love.
And we want to invite you into our Finding Love community. And one of the best ways to do that is clicking that subscribe button right down there.
If you want to tune in with us more, kick in with us more, learn more about Finding Love, we definitely want you to follow us on all social media at I Am Finding Love. And I am Jenni L. Hendrix on all social media platforms. Jenni with an I, L, Hendrix with an IX.
Hey, there you go, baby. And mine is Stephen Hendrix, #1. And also, for anybody's listening to us on one of these amazing podcast platforms, please rate, review, comment. We really appreciate you.
We gonna